Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the Noon News from Montana's news leader.
And a good Friday afternoon. I'm Jay Cohn. Victoria is on assignment today. New at noon, law enforcement and emergency service providers from across our state and around the West pay their final respects to Gallatin County Sheriff's Deputy Jake Allmendinger today. MTN's Chet Lehman was staged along the procession route this morning.
It was a scene just after 9:30 this morning as members of law enforcement emergency services from around the valley, the state, and multiple states making their way to the area known as the Commons, the Journey Church, as they make their way down Main Street. This is Huffine Lane turning into Love Lane. Just a mile and a half down the road is the church where the funeral procession for Jake Allmendinger will be making their way. Again, an incredible display by law enforcement and emergency services this morning, representing some 5 states from as far away as California as this procession continues to file past us here. Has been going on for several minutes and will continue for quite some time. They took hours to gather this morning to get ready to pay their respects. An incredible outshowing. I'm going to step out of the way so you continue to watch this. Choteau County Sheriff going by, Fergus County Sheriff making their way by. I'm just reading off the names as these members of law enforcement and emergency services. That's the Grand Forks Police Department right there. That's the city of Laurel. Teton County making their way by. Just again an incredible showing as they make their way over to the Journey Church. That's a game warden from Fish, Wildlife and Parks. Members of emergency services including wrecking crews as well. Lake County Sheriff being represented now as you see their vehicles going by. This is the sheriff from Missoula County. A couple of vehicles from them making their way, some with lights and all with lights, but some with sirens. Just an incredible display of support for Deputy Jake Allmendinger, who lost his life last weekend while on duty representing the folks of Gallatin County. Again, this procession continuing on. We will have more coming up tonight at 5:30. Reporting from Bozeman, Chet Lehman, MTN News.
Quite the sight there. Thank you so much, Chet. In other news, a Bridger man likely will spend the rest of his life behind bars following his conviction of raping a young girl and another woman. 56-year-old Gene Devereaux sentenced this week to 120 years in prison after he was convicted of 6 felonies this past July. Charges first filed back in January of 2017 against Devereaux for raping the girl who told police that he began to molest her in 2005 when she was only 4 years old. A second round of charges then brought against Devereaux when another woman came forward saying that he had raped her as well. Devereaux won't be eligible for parole for another 25 years when he's 81 years old.
I think it's important to the community demands that cases like this are prosecuted, and they demand appropriate sentences. And I really have the highest regard for the law enforcement that work so hard to get this done and helped us prosecute this case.
Devereaux's defense attorney calls the sentence this week overly harsh and says he plans to appeal to the Montana Supreme Court. A recorded interview with Helena police detectives was presented as key evidence this week in the trial of 23-year-old murder suspect Journey Winkie. In that interview, Winkie admits to helping take jewelry from the scene and washing the murder weapon following the double murder last year of David and Charlotte Taylor in Helena. Winkie said he didn't expect anything to happen when he went to the victim's home with their son Caleb Taylor. He also says he was in a state of shock after watching Taylor attack and kill his parents. Caleb Taylor has already pleaded guilty to the double murder. He is currently serving 2 consecutive life sentences in prison. In Bozeman, a suspect still at large following a stabbing Wednesday night that happened near the Gallatin Valley Mall. Bozeman City Police say a man stabbed another man twice. It happened during a fight among a group of people near the Petco parking lot. A canine unit searched those grounds near Petco for any evidence, but police have not said if anything was found. Time now to check into the weather scene with Ed McIntosh. Good afternoon, Ed. Looks like kind of a blustery Friday, but the sun's out.
That's right, and it is warming up quite a bit too, Jay, as we take a look. These are temperatures compared to where we were at the same time yesterday. So almost all of the state running from 5 to 25 degrees warmer now than we were at noon on Thursday afternoon. But the winds, as Jay mentioned, also very blustery down the east slopes and continuing to push out into the eastern plains. Some of those stronger wind gusts around Cutbank, Livingston have been hitting winds of 55 to 60 miles per hour during the morning hours. Now, as we get through the afternoon, more of that wind will spread across the eastern plains and then northeastern Montana heading into tomorrow. We'll break down more of the wind and rain and snow coming up.
All right, thanks, Ed. A new partnership launching here in Montana that could help make it easier for families to buy their own home. Wells Fargo and NeighborWorks America announcing this week they'll bring the Neighborhood Lift program here to Montana. That program is open to Montana low-income families after the home buyers complete an education course, have a contract to purchase a home, and are approved for financing. They can then apply for a $10,000 grant to help with the down payment. Some groups, including military members and veterans, along with teachers and emergency service members, can qualify for grants up to $12,500.
Families definitely have a struggle to make that big down payment, that savings. They're able to make the high rent payments and other things in their life. So this fills that gap that they need in order to move on to home ownership and then beginning to build their own wealth for their future.
So when you think about what we're doing, we're giving families a chance to have safe, stable housing that's affordable to them so that they can go on and thrive in whatever endeavor they need to thrive in.
NeighborWorks says this LIFT program will help about 225 new home buyers in Montana. Those grants will be offered starting next Monday. In Great Falls, the annual Harvest Howl fundraiser has been forced to make some big changes after the bands Smash Mouth and Los Lonely Boys canceled at the last minute. This annual event that raises funds for Camp Rotary has already lined up 2 replacements for Saturday's event, World Class Rockers and Starship featuring Mickey Thomas. And the night also features a silent auction. The Harvest Howl is offering refunds to anyone who purchased tickets but now does not want to attend due to the last-minute changes. In Butte, one of the mining city's most historic buildings will soon honor a renowned Butte author. MTN's John Amy brings us the story.
Moving 10,000 books into a new research library in honor of the late Butte writer Edwin Dobb is a labor of love. But it's also hard work.
I think we moved something like 180 boxes of books over about a week and a half. No one had to go to the gym that week.
The hard work will result in the Edwin C. Dobb Memorial Peace Library being set up in Butte's historic Jacobs House at Granite and Montana. Dobb, a Butte native and renowned writer and essayist, died last July.
Ed was a champion of the literary arts here in Butte, and so we thought it was only appropriate to honor him with his name being on our library.
The books for the library came from the collection of Butte author David Abrams, who authored the acclaimed novels Fobbit and Brave Deeds.
I look on this library as a gift back to Ed for all of the love that he's given Butte over the years.
This is just a few of the 10,000 books he sold to this project. Now, it wasn't an easy decision, but when he found out it was going in honor of Ed Dobb, well, that made that decision a bit easier.
Emotionally, it was a little bit hard to get rid of them, but like I said, once I knew where they were going and the purpose of the library, then all bets were off. I freely gave.
In Butte, John Amy, MTN News.
And John tells us that plans include using a temporary home for traveling artists who are passing through Butte. The new library expected to be open by next summer. Much more ahead for you here on today's Noon News. Coming up, we'll hear from a Montana pulmonologist who will explain to us how vaping affects the body. Your time right now is 12:09. But first, Ed's up next with your statewide weather forecast.
You're watching MTN News with Victoria Hill. Storm Tracker weather with Ed McIntosh, and farm and ranch news from the Montana Ag Network. This is the Noon News on Q2, Montana's news leader.